Several years ago, Bernard and myself were absolutely snookered by fish on our wharf fishery. We couldn't even get them to come to our flies. It wasn't a case of missing them. We couldn't even get them to take the damn flies. We knew that the basic reason was that we weren't getting a fly that had a good impression on the surface. You could watch a natural float down, and every time they were getting whacked, and ours were just drifting along unmolested. We knew we had to get a better profile, a better footprint on the surface, a better outline. The problem was that we were fishing with conventional hackled flies. Okay, we should have used paraduns, but at that time with conventional hackled flies on, and they just weren't interested. And when you look at a dun sat on the water, you can see that it's making 6 little imprints where it's 6 feet touch the surface. There's a slight impression where the abdomen tip touches, and sometimes you get a slight impression where the tails are. But mostly it's the little dots where the 6 feet touch down. So I set about devising a new pattern, and I did it by lashing little bits of nylon across the shank, and it was so labour intensive. And Bernard says, why don't you do something with the microfibbits? Because we were using microfibbits for the tails. So I thought, yeah, probably if we stand these, instead of cutting them off when the tails are in, I thought if we do something with the microfibbits, like bead them out to the side, we could get some little stumpy legs. And so we started working on this between us, his ideas, me doing the tying, and eventually we got a fly. We knocked a fly up. The first one had a tuft wing, like the paradun. And then I thought it would look better if we made a loop wing. So I made this simple loop wing. And after a bit of trial and error, we got the fly to what it is today. We've both been using it now for about 7 or 8 years, and it's an absolutely cracking pattern. So I'm going to show you how it's tied. One of the problems is tying with this stuff, microfibbits. A lot of fly tyers hate it. To split these tails and set them in position, to set the legs out, it's a bit fiddly. It's only a 2 material fly, well, it's a 3 material fly. You've got the microfibbits for the tails and the legs. You've got a loop wing of polyarn, and you've got dubbing. So it's basically a simple fly, but there's a fiddly aspect to it, and it's these things. It's the microfibbits. But I can assure you, if you sit down and just do yourself 1 or 2 of these, you will have a fly that will knock a lot of fish off. When they're picky, when they're refusing other more standard patterns. And again, it's a very prototypical or generic pattern, if you like. You can tie it to match all the upwings, all the Ephemeroptera, obviously, except you can't. It's not suitable for the big green drakes. But for flies in the range size, say 20 down to 14s, it's perfect. So all your olives, medium olives, large dark olives, blue-winged olives, spur-wings, pale wateries, iron blues, all those, this one pattern, just changing the size and the body colour and the wing colour, you can cover the whole gamut. So I'm doing this on a size 18 E1A, and obviously knock down the barb. And then, as always, I'm tying with spider web on. All my small flies are tied with this stuff. So tying thread on, short thread base, just up and down a couple of times. Off with the waist. And now the first thing to tie in is the wing, and I'm using this material. This is siliconized polypropylene yarn in this sort of medium grey colour. Take off a short amount with the thread at about the 1/3, 2/3 position. I lift the yarn up against the weight of the bobbin. So there's the weight of the bobbin pulling it down. Sit it on top of the shank, circle round, correct it back if it drags over to me, and pull down, pull down, pull down. Now tighten down to maximum of spider web. And then make a long sloping cut, keeping that low, a quick cut like that. And that tapers all these fibres. So just tie them down now by making fairly soft wraps to bundle them all together. And then when you've got them bundled, come back up now with more power on, more tension on to crush them down. And that makes a nice slim tapered start to the body. Stroke your fibres forward, make sure they're all lying nice and neat. Put your dubbing needle underneath, hold your dubbing needle at right angles to the hook shank. Not like that, not like that, right angles to the hook shank. Keep a firm grip on here and just measure your wing off by raising the dubbing needle like that. Hold this part, the front part, at the eye, and then let your finger and thumb run underneath like that. Slide the needle out, transfer your grip. Now you're looking at the front and tether down the front of that loop wing. Tether it down, pulling back hard towards where they meet at the bottom. And they should have a nice neat loop wing. Trim off your waist, again on a long slope. And tie that down, also making a slight taper at the front. The way I've put it in is not like that, it's like that, up, back down and along. So it comes up and round like that, not in a continuous curly pig's tail. If your wing happens to turn on you, just do a little bit of overcorrecting. Either slip the needle in again and just overcorrect, or get hold of it physically and overcorrect. Just hold it there and relax back. That's how your wing wants to stay as a loop sitting across the shank. Take your thread right back behind the wing down to somewhere near the tails, and you're ready to tie the tails in. And these again are microfibbits, but these are nice sturdy ones. These are a very pale grey. They almost look white, just right for the pale watery. And I want 4 of them, so just check that you've got 4. I think I've got 5, I have. So there's my 4 fibres. Tips are nicely in line, so I'm going to grip there and sever these at this point here. And now I tie these in. There's the 4 tails going in. It doesn't matter whether you hold it at this side or at that side, it doesn't really matter. Any length to start with, just catch them in on top and come down to the end of the shank. Not too much tension at first. See, there's the tails, they're miles too long, so I get hold of all 4 butts and I push with my thumb there and I drag the fibres through. And I'm looking for tails that are about a body length or slightly longer. I divide these here and I get them into 2 and 2. I put 2 on one side of the wing and 2 on the other side of the wing. Now I come to the tails and I split the tails in the usual manner by coming up with my thumb, and I divide those into 2 there and 2 there. So I'll just rotate the vise and I'll let you see this. And now I want to fix those tails in that position, so I just simply come between there, over the top and between there. So now I've got nicely V'd tails. There's my far pair, 2 there and 2 here. So what I've done, I've essentially figure of 8'd round the tails. and they're nicely in line. What you're trying to do is you're making a flat plane like that. You don't want them like that, and you don't want them like that. You're making a flat plane with your tail fibres. They are going to be outriggers. And I take now one final wrap underneath both bunches, and I pull back. And you should have 4 nicely splayed tails in 2 banks of 2, and I'll rotate the vise and you'll see them. Now you come up the shank, tethering those butts down on either side, and you make sure all the time that they stay on the side of the hook. So just work along. You don't need a fantastic amount of tension, just normal fly tying tension, making sure they stay on the side of the shank. When you get to a position just behind the wing, you separate out one of these fibres on each side. These two are married together, so I'll just split them with my scissor point. There we go. So take those 2 back and just hold them back like that. And now just bead in front of those to hold them back. Continue forward now, up to the base of the wing, the back of the wing, come to the front of the wing. Still making sure that these stay on their respective sides, don't let them cross over, until you get to a position just in front of the wing. When I get to there, again about a couple of millimetres in front of the wing, I hold these back and I bead up in front of these. And once I've beaded up in front of them, I come to the eye. So I've now got the 4 waist butts of the microfibric tails in 2 V's on either side of the body. If they're not perfect at this stage, don't worry, because you've got to dub now. So I'm going to make my own mix, a little bit of this very pale sandy colour and a little bit of this pale olive, about a 50-50 mix. And I'm just going to do a quick finger mix, stripping and joining, strip and join. Do this several times until you've got a reasonable spread of colour. And now all I've got to do is dub. And now just simply knock this on in the finest spindle you can get. I don't want to build any bulk up hardly at all now. So just spread this along and make a nice, neat, thin spindle. So just jockey the legs out of the way until you come up to the front of the front legs. And this is the critical bit, making sure that they now stay in their nice attitude. And then come behind the legs and go up to the front of the wing. Swing back behind the wing. Dub out now to that back pair of legs. Come behind the back pair of legs, and now you home and dry all the way down to the base of the tails. Slough off any excess dubbing. And now you could do the whip finish there, or what I do now, I used to do the whip finish there. What I do now, I come forward now with my tying thread through the tails, through the dubbing rather, just twanging past the legs. Mind you don't upset any of the leg placements. Behind the wing, in front of the wing, up to the front legs, in front of the front legs, and up to the head. And at that point, and only then, do I do the whip finish. Drop on the usual 2-finger, 3 or 4 turn, pull through, hey presto. Primp your legs back, off with your waist thread, on with a touch of head cement, fine touch of fly tight in there. And finally, you have these legs to trim to length. Now whatever you do, don't trim these off too short. There's no such a thing as a putting on tool. So that's how they should be V'd. Look at the front. Look at the front. Make sure they're all on the same flat plane. Yep, they look good. So now just crop these to length. Don't cut them off too short to start with. You can always go back round again. And the idea, of course, is to get all 4 the same length. So I'll shorten them just a little bit. They do look ridiculous if they're too long. And that's it. Finished. So I'm going to show you now how it sits in the water. So I've got a glass here. And we're going to imagine this is a little bit of the upper haven. There's my favourite floatant, dilly wax. So what I do, imagine it's on the end of a 2-pound point or 2.5-pound point. So fly would be in my hand, squeeze a little bit of dilly wax out, not much more than a little bead, just so that then spread it with my thumb. Do that, just make a little glistening bit on the end of your index finger, just anoint the underside of the body, just work a bit into there, and then stroke out on all 4 legs. Just make sure these get a coating of dilly wax. Then stroke up the tails. And now I'm going to drop it on the River Avon. Absolutely lethal are these. There's the footprint done in the film, and you can clearly see its footprint. You see the two pairs of microfibits and the 4 little leg, the impression the 4 little legs give. That's the footprint done in the surface film, and you can see that would be a really lovely signal of a wing coming over the trout's window. There's the 2 side by side, and you can see that the Paradon has a far more fussy outline than the footprint. The footprint's got the nearer the true outline that you get from a dun, but it's not going to be exactly the same. We can't play God here, but all you're doing is you're making an outline or a footprint that is more representative of an actual dun in the film. And you can see that there's a distinct difference between the fussy hackle of the parachute fly and the rather more, shall we say, sparse footprint of the footprint dun. So there we have it. And I can tell you this much, I'm going to have some fun with that this week because pale waters are coming off. So I'll see you on the riverbank.